All right, in this video, I want to talk about what I think is the number one problem with this game. I think, let me check. I'll just maybe clear my states or some shit and see what's here. All right. I'll just try to talk, not get too distracted doing this shit. I think that this game is being gate kept by a select group of individuals in a specific Discord that they're so hell bent on ensuring that the game is managed and run according to how they see fit, uh, to the point that they have created a situation where they've basically disallow alternate opinions. They gatekeep everything that has to do with this game. You're not allowed to have an opinion that's different than how they view it, or you get ostracized. You can't be part of the greater community. And anytime that you voice an opinion, it could be about any topic. Anytime you voice an opinion, they will essentially um, just don't accept you being around. And so this shows up in a variety of ways. And the concerning thing is, anytime there's an item, anytime there's a mechanic, anytime there's a maybe it's an interaction between a couple of items that they deem too strong or overpowered, what they'll typically do is they'll go run to a staff member via DMs and they'll plead their case. And then in turn, what happens is, if they're able to convince these staff members that something is overpowered, then we could potentially see changes. Now, staff's position is any item in the game is subject for review and changing, which includes premium items. So there's been all kinds of debate on Void Forged, for example, or like dodge mechanic, or like backlash. There is this agenda to nerf beast builds. They say charisma's too overpowered because of the itemization, the support for it. There is basically they want to shut you up. And any time that anyone makes an argument that has any substance against what they're trying to accomplish, they will gang up on you. They will try to silence you, even to the point of they'll like ban you from Discord, or they'll go run to staff and point out a comment that they've disliked, that their little poor little feelings were hurt. Oh, boo fucking who, stuff like that. They had too many soy burgers in the last week, and so they take things personal. And another thing they like to do is they'll sit there and tell you that you should be able to argue or debate in quote in good faith. And all that is doing is they're using that as a means to manipulate the narrative so that they can control the narrative. Like for example, a lot of times, like when I think about a certain topic that's related to this game, I might entertain alternate points of view, and not from the point of view as people say it, as they post the alternate point of view, but I'll rather think about it in terms of putting myself in other people's shoes before I decide on a position to take. And probably 90% of the time, I've already decided and already discounted the alternate point of view as being a weak argument um, before taking on my opinion. So what happens a lot of times is they'll end up giving me an argument they've already thought of. And so I already have decided that it's not a very good argument. And so I'll outright discount it because I've already thought it through. And sometimes they'll mistake that for not having good faith in the argument. So sometimes I'll just sit there and tell people, well, nothing you're going to tell me is going to change my mind. And I find that when people take issue with that position, it's like they get offended because I think that these people really feel like that they're able to present an argument in such that you, after having heard the argument, that you will be able to just change your mind because, I don't know, they think that they're so fucking smart that you'll just automatically just go, oh, okay, Mr. Genius, I understand where you're coming from now. Well, I'm sorry, but most of those arguments, there's too much of an agenda at hand. And so um, whenever you have basically all but one staff member that only frequent the one Discord, then what happens is you have a situation where the optics look like that staff are only considering one point of view, that there's collusion going on. And so if you say something that's maybe not the popular opinion, then not only will you have the hive mind kick in like you just threw a ball at a bee's nest, but then you'll also have the staff members that'll chime in as if their fucking feelings got hurt. And they think that whenever that hive mind is swarming, that you should just go, oh, okay, well, I'll just consider a different opinion. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to go along with the group for the sake of going along with the group. I find that to be extremely weak-minded. It lacks courage, and I think it just shows a weak person, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not saying that my point of view on every situation is the right one or anything, because at the end of the day, it's an opinion, which is another thing. Is now their argument is that they'll claim that using the phrase "in my opinion" is somehow dismissive, and I've done that personally in many facets in life. I don't believe it's dismissive at all. I think it's important to not sound like you're trying to impose your point of view on others through the use of it. And their argument to suggest that it's a dismissive use of "in your opinion" is somehow like some bad thing, when in actuality I think it's actually a good thing, because the conversation isn't being divisive in such a way that it's like it comes across where basically you're essentially saying, I know better than you, shut the fuck up. And that's how it actually comes across when you're not using that phrase. So the end result basically is you have at the end of the day, it's activism. And so you just have people that just want to shape the game how they see fit. And it's also a sign whenever you see some of these same people have multiple of their item suggestions implemented by staff. But not only that, now we're having items that were implemented get revised based off of the same person's suggestion to revise it. So it's like, oh shit, well my suggestion was shit, so this is my suggestion to make it better. And then later on staff goes, oh, okay, not only did we use your suggestion, we're going to actually use your suggestion to fix it. And so if staff had used suggestions from people from outside the Discord, it would not show the bias that's readily apparent, but it would also um, sort of convey a little bit broader sense of community in the game. But instead, staff, um, not only do they only implement suggestions based on the select group of the in crowd, but they also will oftentimes entertain ideas based on game balance. I once did a GBI suggestion based on Spellcaster Lean causing healing to be a game balance issue because Spellcaster Lean was more or less intended for mages. So mages using an offensive oriented armor that was meant for them was causing an imbalance to healing. So they agreed with it, and they did so because it actually makes sense. And then they decided to temporarily reverse it pending a further eval of healing in general, which I guess makes sense, so I don't have an issue with that. But I will tell you that that reversal, you can plainly see how overpowered it is. It's not even debatable, in my opinion. It is. It makes the entire thing extremely powerful. Um, Now, in that GBI, there was almost no replies. If my post was so contentious and I was way off base with it, in my opinion, I would have seen a lot of posts saying, no, here's why you're wrong. And I didn't really see a whole lot of that. I also did that with a post that I talked about. Let's see, what was it? It was about how a luck drive on a shield is not actually a GBI, and that sort of came out of the dev notes from the donation contest. And I listed several examples of why this is the case, and there isn't a single reply to it. Nobody has said, no, I don't believe that's the case, and here's why. But it has come up inside of Discord, and there was some very extremely weak arguments presented in Discord. And the fact that instead of debating it on the public forums and instead you debate it in Discord is another form of gatekeeping. It's so what they do is they try to box you in their own Discord with their own rules, and then they try to control the argument and control the narrative. If so, that's how you know that you've made a good argument, is that they're going to debate you inside of Discord instead of on the forums. And so that just tells me pure and simple that they don't have any legs to stand on the argument. If they did, they would actually plead their case there. And so that's why they'll run to staff and DMs. They try to box you in their little Discord, and they try to argue with you there instead of allowing for everyone to see the points being made. And so all it is the whole thing is just manipulative. And so whenever you go against their narrative, they'll ban you. They'll tell you, oh, we can't talk about that. I say, there's been numerous times where these fucking idiots will just be like, this conversation will stop now, with an exclamation or whatever, and you get warned. It's just all narrative control. And that's what happens when authoritarian mindsets lose the debate, is they'll try to shut down the topic entirely. So that's what they do, is they'll ban you or they'll threaten you, or they just won't even reply when it's sort of out in the open. And so it's just dishonest means to try to get their way. And so I think staff may unknowingly be playing a part in that. Um, and so at minimum, or at worst, they're outright colluding to try to make sure it happens. And so I just feel like that what's been taking place uh, with a select group of what they view themselves as elitists in this game is actually the game's number one problem. Um, and so anybody with, I think, half a brain and that is has any sense of attempt to be impartial and just kind of view things for what they are, um, can see it. I think there's, in fact, I know that there are people inside the Discord that they're in the Discord because they don't like the other Discord's creator for their own personal reasons, but they just sort of ignore sort of the some of these issues that they also see, so they just don't get started and basically end up with a bullseye on their back. So that's fine. That allows them to be part of the community, but I think there needs to be more people that needs to speak up and call out the bullshit. That doesn't mean that you need to go join another Discord. Maybe there needs to be a new Discord made, and people will be more accepting of um, others' points of view. Maybe some of the extreme ends of both sides can be fleshed out, and people not be so pissed off. Well, I believe this. Well, that's fine. You're free to believe it. Um, I don't know. I just kind of wish someone would do that, but I don't think it's going to be me. I just don't have a lot of time, but it's just something I think needs to happen, because otherwise, um, especially as you know, Korriban, for example, isn't around as much. He's not playing as much. He's not as invested. He doesn't do videos anymore. So that Discord is not as busy anymore. So all that's left is basically um, the authoritarian regime, and so it's going to become further and further a problem, and they're eventually going to influence staff to the point where I think the game may very well end up losing a lot of its players because they're being influenced by the activism, um, and so I think that's their end goal. And so at the end of the day, I think that um, there needs to be some pushback one way or another. But that's it for this video. Please share your personal thoughts on it. If you wish to disagree with me, please share that. Maybe I'm off base. If you wish to agree with me, then share that. But um, I don't know, maybe there's something I'm missing, but that's just how I feel. I think it's the single biggest problem with this game. The um, in crowd, so to speak, that come across like they know better and you should shut the fuck up or we'll make you, basically. But that's it.